camps, which is so exciting. And it is an exciting thing to be able to orient ourselves in such a way that our response is yes. And if something crazy is asked, and maybe a bit too crazy, my pushback is always on about that is, well, it may not be yes right now, but it may not even be a no. So it may just take a little refashioning or conversating about it more, but we're definitely in the mindset of saying yes. And how are we saying yes? The way that I've kind of framed it over the last few months since the pandemic is we're entering into holy experiments. So every time we step onto the campus of grace, either through worship or just being on the grounds of grace, there's always all kinds of experiments going on. Experiments that are ways to say yes to God. Can I give you guys an example of a holy experiment going on right now? Number one, this fireside chat is a holy experiment, because when I shared it with the rest of the stewardship cohort and some of my colleagues in ministry, they don't understand what it means. And I don't really understand what it means, but we're trying it and we're going to see how it works. So I guess the notion of just being brave and stepping out and doing things in a new way. Another thing is we have this refrigerator outside of my office door. Ed came to me and said, listen, somebody's donated a refrigerator. How would you feel if we just put it outside the office door? What do you think that would be like? And I said, well, let's give it a whirl. Well, that refrigerator has opened up a lot of traffic onto our campus. We're estimating between 65 to 100 people are stopping by the church every single day between the blessing refrigerator and the blessing box in order to get food. This morning before Bible study, I put 60 loaves of bread in the refrigerator. After the Bible study, an hour and a half later, I went out and it was empty. The freezer side was empty. The refrigerator side was empty. All of it was gone. That's a lot of bread, y'all. And that's a short amount of time. And I think one of the things that Grace has done well is that we haven't really come into the community and said, this is what we're going to offer you. Instead, we've listened to our community. That's a big difference. We've listened to the needs of our community. How did we do that? Every time we put food in the blessing box, it was gone. Every time we put food in the refrigerator, it's gone. What is our community telling us? We're hungry. We need food. And we want to come to your church to get what we need. And I think being stewards of what God has given us, I think we need to answer that call. And I think that we have been in the process of answering that call. Is everybody with me? Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So, part of, I think, being good stewards, and basically my whole notion of stewardship is everything that we have is from God and of God, and it's a gift, right? And so in actuality, we don't really own anything. We steward everything, right? And part of being good stewards is recognizing that we love and serve a God who is a God of abundance, right? He's not one who is one of scarcity and one that is lacking, but he's over abundant in everything that he gives to us. And that's how I think we should look at stewardship. There is going to be enough. And my challenge to Grace this particular year is to recognize that, because what I'm about to say, it's kind of a big ask, but our stewardship goal this particular year is $250,000, meaning that is the pledging units that I'm hoping that we will be able to get to. Last year, the pledges totaled $170,000. And the year before that, it was $134,000. I know this is a really, really big ask, but we are dreaming big, and we are believing that I don't know, just really wonderfully big things are happening here now. And we are going to step out in a way that we haven't before. And one of the things in regards to stewardship, one of the things I think that is really important to realize is that part of stewardship, especially in regards to a church, is yes, making a church run, right? Paying the light bill, paying the water bill, all of those things so that when we come to church, we can show up in a building that has air conditioner. A few weeks back, the air conditioning wasn't working. And for those of us who were there, it was downright miserable, right? But we also know that stewardship of a church is so much more. And over the last year, I want to point out Paul. Hey, Paul, you want to wave and say hi? Our wonderful musical director and pianist and organist. For those of you guys who were able to worship during COVID, I don't know why I even preached every week with Paul playing. His ministry of music just kept getting better and better and better every week. And most of the comments when we were all online, they were all just about Paul. Just thank you, Paul, for your ministry. Thank you, Paul, for your gift of music during this time. It lifted a lot of people's spirits. Paul is being courageous and that he's got the choir back together. They are singing on Sundays safely with their singing masks on. Everybody wears them on Sunday. And there's just something rich and full in our church now that choir is back. And so, Paul, I just want to say thank you for your ministry of music and the gift, especially the gift that you brought again and again during COVID. It was such a blessing to see you just, I mean, like unfold like a flower. It was beautiful to watch week in and week out, and the blessing that you were to so many. So thank you.
Thank you.
Many of you all, you're welcome. Many of you also know Ed has kind of been working overtime as well, connecting with the community, heading up most recently our pumpkin patch, as well as our mobile food pantry efforts. And anybody who walks into the office knows that Ed kind of has his fingerprints on just about everything that kind of comes through here. He's been a wonderful partner in ministry for me. And I think a key to where Grace is right now, his technical abilities alone have kind of catapulted our little church into a sphere we haven't really been before. And so that is a huge gift, and for which I'm so thankful for. So Edward Corrett, thank you for your love of grace and love of God. Aubrey, our children's minister, has found really courageous and beautiful ways to connect the kids during this time where there's been so much disconnect. She's planned all kinds of Zoom meetings, and she's done donut delivery. She's planned events under the pavilion and has done such a fantastic job with the kids and youth of Grace during this time. And for you guys, Grace, y'all did a really brave thing too in June. You called me as your rector. And for a little church, that's a big deal. And that is something worthy to celebrate. I know most of you guys here, how many of y'all were here in the times when you were kind of wandering without a leader? Raise your hand. Yeah. So it's hard when you don't have a leader in a church, isn't it? And the desire to want to be led, and knowing that, you know, it's hard to do it on your own. But when you get somebody who, the way I describe it, when the right priest lands at the right church, guess what happens? Magic. Just, it's glorious what can happen. And I think what we've seen here at Grace is that happening. I'm super happy and proud to be here. And I think the people of Grace were ready for leadership that maybe the kind of leader I am, they were wanting and maybe not even knowing, but you guys have been amazing to me and accepted me. And one of the things I must say, you guys courageously allowed me to make subtle changes and haven't really questioned and said, oh, Suzanne, that's not going to work. Everybody has just kind of said, okay, let's try it, which on my end, to be a priest in that kind of position, it's just been a really life-giving a time for me as your priest. So a lot of wonderful kind of staff stuff has happened, which I think has allowed us then to move into different areas in which we've been able to caretake not only the church, but also our community. And one of the major ways that we've been able to do that is through our blessing box, through our blessing refrigerator, and through our mobile food pantry efforts. Every single week now at Grace, we are feeding nearly 1,000 people in the Alvin area. Even with people having gone back to work now with COVID, we still have 200 cars lined up every Thursday wanting food. We now have between 50 and 60 volunteers who are coming to Grace every single week. Many of those people, y'all, are now coming to church on Sunday mornings or joining us online. You know, the days where we think people are just going to dress in their Sunday best and a mom and a dad and 3.5 kids are going to walk through the doors of Grace, those days probably are, I mean, yes, it's still possible, but we're just not seeing that. However, when people experience what we call the mobile food pantry or church in the parking lot, again and again, and for those of you all who haven't been able to come, we start every mobile food pantry with the ringing of the bells. So for me, ringing of the bells is really significant. That's been happening since the Middle Ages. And what does that mean? That means it's a call to worship. It is our time to worship. And we have received food from Grace, and we are now partaking and giving away the food to our neighbors. And that is worship. And what we are finding is that those 55 to 60 people who show up regularly, and some of them, they come every single week, what they express to us is that Grace has been a place of safety for them. Not only has it been a place of safety for them, but it's been a place where they can serve their neighbors in a meaningful way. So much so, they show up again and again every week. In addition, what we are seeing now with our volunteers with the mobile food pantry, many of our volunteers are actual participants in receiving of the food. They park their cars, they get out of their cars, and they themselves are volunteering, bagging the food, shopping for the food, all of it, they're partaking. So not only are they receiving, but they are also giving, which I think is a really beautiful thing. They want to come and join in. We have about 25 or so of those kinds of volunteers every week from the actual food line who come in and join us as we give the food away. I think that's pretty remarkable too, that they feel comfortable enough that they want to come and join. That's ministry, y'all. That is like, to me, that is impacting lives in a way that I could stand up and preach about it all day long, but they're experiencing it and they're choosing to want to be a part of something. And I believe, you know, that just opens up many doors for them to actually walk through the doors of Grace at some point. And we're already seeing that. We have 5 people at least who are regular worshipers at Grace now who came to Grace through the mobile food pantry efforts. So during the last 9 months, 5 new folks of Grace who are really committed have come by way of the mobile food pantry, which again is something worthy of celebrating, right? We've looked and we prayed for Grace to grow, right? And we want new people and we want others to come. And this has been a way by which people have found their way into the sacred space, which is Grace Episcopal Church. All of it worthy of celebration. Okay, I know that I've been talking nonstop for the last 25 minutes. Any questions? If not, I'm going to keep going. Am I talking too fast? Everybody keeping up? Yeah? Informative? Have I put anybody to sleep? No. Okay, good. So one of the other ways that we have found this notion of stewardship is that we've just finished what season at Grace? The pumpkin patch, right? We have about 15 pumpkins left on our campus. So if anybody needs or wants a pumpkin, please come and get one. Would you believe somebody came into our office today and bought more pumpkins from me? How about that? I was here on Saturday and I sold $32 worth of pumpkins to 5 different people, I think. And then a lady came in today and bought 3 or 4 more for $5. So there you go. Even after pumpkin season, we're still selling pumpkins, which is really fantastic. But this was a pumpkin season that was really tremendous. And
I sold $7 worth. $7.
You did, Jeremy. He did. And he handed me 7 $1 bills on Saturday.
She might have taken 20 pumpkins. I don't know.
So anyhow, what the pumpkin patch at least has shown to me again and again each year is that this is our gift to our community, right? Jim and Jana, you've been here probably as long as Donna and Mary, or y'all are all in the same kind of time. No, you're shaking your head no. Okay, I'm gonna call on Jim and Jana.
We're mere children compared to Donna and Mary.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind if you, but I know Jim, you had your hands in the pumpkin patch for so many years. So tell me what you have come to learn about what the pumpkin patch means to the Alvin community and our relationship and its relationship to Grace, if you could.
Well, yeah, year after year, and in this year as well, you know, people will come up and they'll say, we've been coming to this patch every year for X years, and it means so much to us. You know, certain years we've delayed the start. People said, we're looking for you. We are the pumpkin church, you know, to so many people. And this past patch, we were working, and there was this, I could hear this noise. I could hear a man making a growling sound. And I was kind of distracted. I was busy. But finally I looked, and it's a grown man. I mean, you know, he's in his late 40s, and he's chasing these girls or ladies, these young ladies that are in their probably their late teens or early 20s. And he said, yeah, we've been coming here every year for, you know, X years, you know, since they were toddlers, since the women were toddlers. And I always chase them around. And so here they were, you know, playing out the same thing. That's in our playground. People come to our playground. They love our campus, and it's so meaningful, and it's such a part of their lives. And they and every third story, somebody will say, "Oh, well, I know so and so. I know Mary Smith. Yeah, I met Reverend Suzanne. You know, and so forth. You know, they have other connections that bind them to Grace Episcopal, and it's just so heartwarming to hear."
And I have to say that one of the Saturdays we were working, there was a grandmother and her granddaughter, and she said, you know, I've been trying to get her to do do different things, and like to go out to Froberg's or to go do this. And she said, every time all she wants to do is come to the pumpkin patch. And she said, I'm trying to get her to do other things, but we always end up here. And we said, well, you know, have you come to church yet, you know, here? And said, you know, you should think about doing that. And she said, you know, I've been thinking about it. So who knows, you know, she may not, but you know, it was funny.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that, Jim and Jana, because I think you're right on. There is something about having a legacy, and at this time of the year when the weather turns cooler and families are looking for things to finally kind of do together, because all of us are just grateful the oppressive heat has lifted. You know, having a place like our pumpkin patch really has shown to me just what a community uniter it can be. And one of the things that was very clear to me this year was one of our parishioners was spending time out in the patch, and I preached about a little bit about this last Sunday. Is his notion of the whole patch was talking about what a gift of love it is to our community. Because as we all know, I jokingly say, who has served time in the patch? Getting volunteers to do it, to, fill those patch spots. It's hard sometimes, right? And especially this year with so much going on. But we made more money this year than we have, than what we did last year, and we sold a lot of pumpkins. But I think there was also a lot of community building that happened in the patch as well, which was really satisfying for me to watch. But again, like Jim and Jana said, it is for our community, and what's beautiful to see is how the community really does support our sweet little pumpkin patch. When you could go to Kroger or when you could go to HEB and buy your pumpkins, but they choose to come and maybe spend a little bit more on pumpkins, but have an experience that, they can remember with their kids and families. So that is really, really special. Those opportunities to make meaning like that are very significant with people being drawn to a place, I believe. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was our playground. Part of stewarding our campus well is taking care of what we have. And one of the great gifts that Grace Episcopal has is our beautiful playground. And again in each fireside chat, somebody has raised their hands and said, Reverend Suzanne, our playground, I'm super proud that it doesn't have a fence around it. There are no fences around our playground. So if you want to come play at 6 a.m. or if you want to play till midnight, you can do that because we don't have any fences. And I think that that's significant that at an Episcopal church, we don't have fences around our playground, but it is an open playground for anybody to enjoy at any time. And this time of year, I love it because I walk outside of my office and all I hear is kids making noise and laughing and playing. And that is a glorious sound, one of life and vitality, which is really wonderful. So one of the things I also want to kind of say is our continued worship presence in our community. So we are now offering services online as well as in person. And as your priest, my promise to you in my personal goal every Sunday is to be an excellent practitioner of liturgy. And that my hope is that every single service enables whoever is in the church to be able to have an encounter with God. And I don't want to break the number one rule of liturgy. My liturgy professor in seminary said, and it was this: don't obscure the mystery. Now that may sound a bit strange, but it's true. I want more than anything, if people of grace come and wake up and get to church, I want everybody to have an encounter with God where you leave feeling like you've met the Holy One, right? And that it's given you something that you can move into the next week with, strength that you needed to have, a refilling, a refueling, and also just a remembrance of the tradition in which we find ourselves in, right? We Episcopalians, we're a peculiar group, right? We worship in a peculiar way. We do things differently. But what we are seeing is that people still are being drawn by the liturgy and tradition that our church offers. And people say, for instance, I don't know how many of you all have met John Wilson. He's a young 30-something professional engineer who found his way to grace during COVID by streaming online. He's now coming almost every time the door opens. He's serving as one of our greeters every Sunday morning. I asked him to greet on the first Sunday, and he said, Suzanne, he said, I don't think people will want to see me. He says, they don't know me. And I said, that's exactly the reason why you need to be a greeter, so they can know you. And so you can know everybody. And guess what? Now, all these weeks later, he's still doing it every Sunday, serving as a greeter and a seater. He knows exactly where everybody sits now, and he takes everybody to their proper seat How cool is that? And now he's knowing people's names and they know him. So it's worked out really well. Those kinds of things just delight the heck out of me and just make me happy when people feel a part of a congregation. Whereas, 6 months ago, he didn't even know what Grace Episcopal Church was. And now he's kind of fully integrated into the life of our church and worship, which is what I desire more than anything for every person who steps foot into Grace, is that recognition that we are not a church that just meets on Sunday, but we are a church that does ministry all throughout the week. And every opportunity that you can join, we want you there. We started this really cool thing on Wednesday. We meet for noonday prayer every Wednesday. We are now having priests and people from London who meet with us, South Africa. This week, we're going to have a priest from Canada who's going to join us. It's turning into this kind of worldwide thing that originally just started with just Grace folks, but because of Facebook, as well as some of my connections in the priest world, we're expanding it into this much bigger thing. Another holy experiment that's working, and people are being fed this way. So the opportunities for ministry are happening at Grace. And I just want you guys to know that's what it means, I think, to steward something well. And I'll say it again, I do believe that money will always follow mission. When people feel that something good is happening, they want to be a part of it and are more likely to give. And I hope that you all at Grace feel that way about Grace now. Mary, can I call on you? Am I leaving out anything? Is there anything that you would like for me to expand on, or have I not touched on something that needs to be touched on?
I think you covered it all. I think you covered it all, but I just want to say on behalf of the church, how much we want to thank you for saying yes to Grace and for coming to Grace. It's just been amazing. I mean, you've only touched on a part of how amazing it is. And it's just been something wonderful to be part of, so much more than I even imagined in my wildest dreams, really and truly. It just is, every week I'm just blown away by what God does. A couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to name names, but I looked at her, I stopped Mother Suzanne on the sidewalk during food pantry, and I said, what was so-and-so and so-and-so doing coming to church? It's someone who volunteers, but they have their own church. And I knew they were very involved in it. And she said, oh, don't you know? They're kind of making their way over here. And, not that we ever want to just be, these people were going to land somewhere. We weren't stealing them from another church. I want to be clear about that. There were circumstances that were leading them away from their church, and they're coming here. And then, just to look around, and I had a real moment watching Lupe take communion this week. Will you show them what he does when he comes to you to take communion? This is someone who just, he puts his arms out like that, and then he brings them in to take communion. And Lupe is he's just not, let's be real and let's be honest. He's not the kind of guy you would ever have seen walking into most Episcopal churches that I've ever been to. He just is not. He's a guy who just, he kind of lives on a wing and a prayer. And he, I don't know how, kudos to Ed, because I know Ed, being so fluent in Spanish and knowing so much of the culture, and the way he brought him in. But it's just amazing that he came and he started finding ways to serve, and then he made his way into church. And like you said, I think you said there were 5 people or maybe family units that you can look at that way. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
Thank you, Mary. Does anybody have any questions or comments about stewardship at Grace? Okay, so last year we had a goal, or our pledging units were at 170,000. So we're aiming for 250,000. Does that sound big to you guys? Donna, you're shaking your head. Yes. Am I crazy?
but in the best way. Like, it's big in the best way, you know. It's like it's a leap of faith, but one that God has shown us over and over again that he's asking us to take, you know. So yeah, I mean, it you know, if you write it down as a number on a piece of paper, it looks really big, but God has shown us, you know, from the time you step foot there, that he's calling us to more. And we knew that beforehand. We didn't know what that looked like. And if you had asked any of us that were here in that time to write down what we thought that looked like, no one would have described what's going on now, you know. But it's what God needed to have us be in our community, to be in relationship with our community, to be his hands to Alvin. And so yeah, it's big, but it's big in the best way. It's big in the right way.
Thank you, Donna.
I just want to interject too that was not Suzanne's number. Just so you guys know, she had a smaller number, and she called me and gave me a smaller number, and I was kind of like, you know, I felt like I'm not sure it was quite bold enough. And she said, and I guess you sensed it because I didn't even say it out loud. And she said, well, I was kind of thinking, and she upped it a little bit. And I said, okay. And I was just still, I thought maybe that's not it. And then she said that, well, Sherry Campbell thinks we ought to say 250. I said, that's the number. Let's go with that. And so it was really, it came from people in the vestry who were telling her to go higher.
Well, and you know, Sherry is someone who I admire tremendously. And Sherry, but is not someone who I think is like out there like doing foolish things, right?
Right.
So
that's why
Sherry,
I said her name, because I thought that would surprise you that it was Sherry.
Right.
It was like, it was like what, Suzanne, like it was a lot more than what you originally said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of that conversation was Randy and Jim Thompson were in the original stewardship cohort when we were talking about, you know, just aiming and having a number and maybe being big and bold in your asking. And Jim Thompson, how are you feeling about that number now, Miss Treasurer of Grace Episcopal Church?
Oh,
There you go.
I haven't heard about that number. This is news to me.
Oh no!
However, I will tell you that I have been working with the 2021 budget projection, and it appears to me that we're on track to beat our 2020 projection by about 10 or 15%.
Really?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Very tentative information, but I want to tell you that I have been very concerned about the COVID situation as it relates to our church. And our communicants have been extremely faithful. They've done an excellent job, and we're on track to beat what we expected for 2020. So whatever you decide for 2021, I'll put it in the books and we'll see how it goes. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, then I guess it's official. Jim Thompson, now that you know what the number is. Yeah. And so that's the thing about all of this during this time is I just am just kind of in awe of how faithful the folks of Grace have been during this entire time. And the giving and how people are giving of their time and talents has really just uplifted me and surprised me again and again, how people are choosing to love their church during this time. And I just want to say that's a rare thing. Again, I don't think most churches are experiencing even that portion of what Grace has experienced. I really do believe that God is just looking favorably on this parish on Lang Street in Alvin. And I think so much of it is because we have said yes. And we have just opened up our arms in a posture of openness and said, God, here we are. We want to be used by you. Please use us. And that prayer and that request is being answered again and again and again. And like I said on Sunday, I'm going to embarrass you, Jeremy, right now. On Saturday, I was in here writing my sermon because my older son, Luke, was at a football game in Alvin. And so while he was at the football game, I just came to the office to write. And I looked out the window, and who is honking the horn, driving a big old orange tractor? None other than Jeremy Guillemette. And one of the things he said, Suzanne, I've come up here because I just want to tidy up Grace. I want to move the pumpkin patch pallets around. I want to make everything neat and tidy, and I want to take a lot of them back to the feed store that we borrowed them from. I didn't ask Jeremy to do that. He just did it. And then, in a comic relief, when I needed it most, I look out my window and there he is in a big orange tractor honking the horn at me. That made my day. And, we talked about the gospel reading this Sunday was all about being ready and being prepared, right? And all of us doing what we can so that when God makes himself known and says, this is what I want you guys to do, we're ready. We are excited and enthusiastic about all the many ways that God is going to choose to use and work through us. I don't think there's any higher calling than that, y'all. That is how disciples of Jesus are formed. When we are able to ingest Holy Scripture and make it real in our world, where those two things come together and we can impact people's lives in a powerful and meaningful way. That's ministry. And that's the kingdom of God on earth. I don't know any other way to say it other than that. And that is what Jesus preaches about again and again and again. You guys are probably sick of it by now. I preach it so much at Grace about, the kingdom of God coming down. And what does that mean? What does it mean to live into that as people, as his people? What does that look like? Well, I think a microcosm of that is what's happening at Grace Episcopal Church right now in Alvin, Texas. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And all of you guys are part of it. How amazing is that? It's good news, isn't it? Something worthy of celebrating in a time that's been so hard. All of it is worth celebrating, and all of it is gift, and all of it is good. Okay, I'm about talked out. These fireside chats are getting shorter and shorter. Each time I do them, I'm getting quicker and succinct. Anybody else have anything to say?
Suzanne, I wanted to let you know one thing that happened today, and it's kind of been happening in a sequence. Bill and I are almost ready to be certified for foster to adopt. And so I got Sunday, not only a crib, just in case we get a baby, but then my neighbor down the street gives me her son, who is my former student at Dawson, gave me his baby bedding. And then today I got a phone call at work saying, from a church member saying, hey, we want to throw you a shower, a baby shower through Zoom. And I said, well, I think it's a little premature because we don't know what age we'll get. It's either going to be an infant up to 4 years old. Well, when that happens, let me know because we're throwing you a shower. I was like, okay, calm down. Let's just take a breath. I'm not ready for a shower yet because I don't know what we're getting. And let's wait till the adoption is final, and then the shower is on. But it's just the outpouring of every day seems like someone else is saying, here's something that may help you. I've got a free pack and play from a neighbor. I mean, it's amazing. So thank you, Grace.
Yeah. We love you, Paul.
I love y'all too. It's just amazing that a church is, I never thought I would see a church that accepting of two men. It's still amazing.
Well, you have given this church a lot, Paul, and you do
Gonna be
every
one
Sunday.
lucky kid.
Yo.
Oh, right?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I didn't know that. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they better love cats and a dog.
Oh. Well, anybody else have anything that they would like to say? What maybe perhaps this time has been like for you during these COVID times of being away from your church family or being connected to your church family? Anybody have anything to say about that? What it's been like?
Well, the one thing that I think is ironic is that you would have imagined in a pandemic, things would, have kind of collapsed in on themselves. But just with the, you're talking about Wednesday prayer, when you're having priests come from all over the world, getting to see the service when you're on the road, or maybe you can't get out. I mean, it's ironic to me, the irony of how actually our grace world has grown versus closed in.
Yeah.
And I would have never, ever anticipated that.
Yeah. I know, Jana, it's been remarkable. Yeah. And I think, we have a lot, Randy and Ed have done an amazing job with the technology. I mean, truly every Sunday, just not unselfishly giving of their time to make sure other people can worship. And they've got the whole camera thing worked out and down to a pat. I mean, it's amazing. And I just show up and they do their thing. And, the diocese has offered a technology grant. So all of the money that we have spent on cameras and video equipment, all of that's going to be reimbursed by the diocese. So really it is, the diocese has blessed us in this endeavor, and it is a gift to be in a diocese that does things like that, for sure. But yes, the growth has been awesome, Jana. Thank you for pointing that out. Any others? Any other meaningful worship connections during the pandemic that you would like to share? If not, I'll share one more thing. Anybody else? No? So one of the things during the pandemic, we had two young mothers who have undergone some pretty serious health issues. One of our young mothers, Laura, had a complete and total liver transplant, which has been successful. And another mother, Janae, has been undergoing chemotherapy treatment every week. She has 2 treatments left. And I just would like to say the way that our church has rallied around these young mothers, all of us, most people at Grace are wearing bracelets in support of them. The green is for Laura with liver transplant and the pink is for Janae. And a parishioner came to me and said, Suzanne, I think this would be a really meaningful way for all of us to feel connected to these 2 young women as they go through their health journeys during COVID. Can I order these for them? To which I said, that is fantastic. Yes, you can. I guess my surprise was just the amount of people who wanted to wear them and who wear them every single day. Every time I see people, they have their Laura and Janae bracelets on. In fact, someone shared a story that even when people come in to get food for the food pantry, they see our little basket of bracelets for Laura and Janae. We tell them what they mean, and they leave with bracelets around their wrist. And they said, "Thank you for sharing these. We will keep them in our prayers." Meaningful ways of connecting our folks at Grace with Janae and Laura, but also others in the community, as well as the food pantry, who are wearing Janae and Laura bracelets. It's really beautiful to see. I hope Laura and Janae have felt the love and support of Grace, and I hope they know that their church family has been behind them and loving them through this time as they heal and get better. Okay.
Well, I'm universally guilty of always speaking on behalf of my daughter, but but I will tell you that Laura and I and Allison and Eric, we've known. I mean, there's been no doubt of what has gotten us through the time. So thank you. I mean, I can't even begin to put it into words.
Yeah. You are welcome, Donna. Your whole family is loved very, very much. So after we finish up this talk, I've made a short video and I've bundled it with a few other things. And everybody who is on this call is going to get a video from me, as well as another note from me personally, just to kind of tie everything together. Be looking for that in your email. I also want to put a plug in. I am wearing one of our new Grace Episcopal shirts. Can everybody see it? Kind of. They come in a variety of beautiful colors. And so I just want to say, this is our new logo. And if you would like one, we're good. They've been so well received. We're going to have to put another order in. So if you would like a Grace Episcopal Church, they're only $10. And like I said, the colors are really beautiful and bright, and they're really this wonderful, soft fabric. I went to the t-shirt shop and felt a bunch of shirts and decided this is what I wanted. So I hope you guys like it. But do order your t-shirt if you have not ordered one. And another thing we're doing are decals for our cars. So Grace Episcopal Church, real pretty decals for our cars. So if any of those sound of interest to you, shoot us an email, let us know so we can get that ordered for you guys, okay? Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Grace, for saying yes, for journeying with one another, with God, with me on this really, really fun adventure. I pray for you all every single day, and every day I wake up and I say, oh my goodness, I get to be the priest at Grace. How awesome is that? I'm very happy to be here, and I know God is moving in really big and bold ways, and I just want to invite everybody to be a part of that, okay? So let's pray, and I'll send you out with a blessing, okay? I told you I'd abide by the 1 hour rule, and I've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to pray and send you guys out, okay? The Lord be with you. Good and loving God, we thank you for this time to be together, this time to reflect on all the many ways Grace has impacted lives as well as our community. Lord, we pray your spirit would move in the hearts and lives of those who have gathered tonight, and we would be generous and bold and desiring to give back to a place that has given so much. Lord God, we are so grateful for the many ways that you are working, and we are just so grateful that we are invited in to this great work that you are doing. And in the words that you have given us to pray, might we be so bold to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Peace of the Lord be with you always. Amen. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
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 Blessings, everybody.
I guess everybody's gone.
Except for Teddy.
I think she stepped away.
Okay. All right. Well,
don't see
I'm gonna leave the meeting now. Okay.
Okay. Shall I leave too?
Yeah.
If I leave, then it's gone.
Okay. Well, then you